But switching to my Cavs take, Ricky Rubio coming back healthy, he'll lead their second unit. That's probably one of the best start or backup point guards in the league. Him or
Wait, he's
Tyus
not starting?
Jones. No, it's gonna. Oh my gosh, yeah. Don't get me started on that, Bernie. Actually, no. I need
we
him on
haven't
the
had a,
show so we
yeah,
can
we
talk
haven't
about
had a
that.
chance to talk
Yeah,
about this,
we
Brad.
need to
We were
talk
just
about this.
bystanders for this.
Yeah, that was an egregious take. Why would you bench Darius Garland? I
Egregious.
can't wrap
So
my head
egregious.
around it. Like Darius Garland is so good. He was literally their whole offense last year by himself. There's no way you bench somebody like that. That's Chris Paul-esque on the Hornets. Like, come on. Um, I think, yeah, they have a two-headed monster on both ends. You got to stop Darius and Donovan on offense, and then you got to deal with Mobley and Allen on defense. If they could just upgrade their wing position, I'd have them number 2 overall probably. If they could get Rui Hachimura, that's my dream for them, is to somehow swipe Rui Hachimura from the Wizards, and they're a contender. They just after one more year of experience. But I really love this team, and they'll be super fun to watch.
Yeah.
Bernie,
I
before
mean,
you go into your
oh, yeah,
Celtics
go
take,
ahead.
can I ask you 2 questions? And I mean this genuinely as
For
counterpoints
Celtics
to
or
them.
mine?
For the Celtics.
Okay,
For the
go ahead.
Celtics.
Go ahead.
Do you really think Horford has another full season of doing what he just did? Genuinely.
Be a spot up shooter and play defense?
Would,
I think so.
you have to be realistic, Bernie. That is not all he was doing for the Celtics. I mean, he was hard carrying you in games in the playoffs. He was on his back carrying your team in certain games in the playoffs.
I still think he has a full season of it. I mean, he's not going to play as many games, probably not as many minutes, but I still think he has that ability. I mean, again, people counted him out when in Philadelphia it didn't work out. And people were like, well, why did they? I mean, I was one of them. I'm not going to front with you. I was one of them. I was like, why did we sign him back? I mean, we got this, the young kid from the Oklahoma City Thunder. I can't remember the kid's name. Center. Moses Brown. Like, I was like, oh, that's perfect. I love that guy. I think he'll do good. We traded him away. And I think that Al Horford, he fits the Celtics. Well, we'll talk about culture later, but like he fits the Celtics. He fits the Celtics in terms of the way that he played the game, the way that he fits with those guys. He fits the roster, I should say. It's probably the lack of a better term. He fits the roster a lot better. So I think that Al Horford, is he going to be a guy that's going to do what he did in game 1 of the NBA Finals? Probably not. But if he can at least be even half of that, I still think this team is really good. Again, we need more ball movers. I think we got those ball movers. So when I talk about the Celtics in a little bit, that's kind of the points I'll bring up and things like that. So we'll get to it when we cross that bridge. But what's your second question? Number 2.
My second question is, how much confidence do you have in the
Mazzulla?
Other bigs on this team if Al Horford is not the guy he was last season? Because here's my one thing with Al Horford, Bernie. Al Horford had literally a full calendar year to sit on his couch and just relax and let his body rest when he was in OKC. He did not play for OKC. He never played. They literally paid him not to play for the team. And it was kind of one of those understandings where, the Thunder was like, well, let's have this guy. He's a piece. Somebody will take him eventually. And it works for him, right? He gets to rest and recover himself. And I think that's so important to what happened last year. Al Horford looked 3 years younger than he did the 2 years before that last season. Like, he literally looked like he de-aged because he had so much time. He just played not only a full season, but he played all the way into the finals. And I think it's a legitimate question if he is the same guy he was last season. And for everything I say about this team, I still, like I said earlier, I think they're going to the finals again. I think they have a good chance to go to the finals again. Let me clarify. It's just Horford, man. I worry about that. And what do you think about Robert Williams staying healthy for a whole season, Bernie? That's, I guess, part of my second question. Is the bigs in terms of everybody besides Horford and Robert Williams.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest issue for the Celtics at this current point. You have a bunch of guys that are hurt right now. You got Robert Williams, again, going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, I think, with a knee injury. I think that's the biggest concern if I'm a Celtics person, which I am. But that's the biggest concern if you're a fan of this team, especially with the makeup of Brown and Tatum. You do need Robert Williams because I think he does change the dynamic of it. And so I think that they need to look a little bit more. I know Noah Vonleh is a decent backup. Brad brought up Jacob Lehman. I'm excited to kind of see him in a role of that magnitude. Gallinari sucks that he got hurt, so that's kind of a scratch. But I think Horford will stay healthy. Again, I'm not. I think we're gonna do. I think we're still gonna be pretty solid. You know, our guard position grew with Malcolm Brogdon being added to the team. I think potentially you could see Marcus Smart slide to a 6-man rotation.
Whoa.
Brogdon's coming
No.
off the bench. Can't put the
Brogdon's
defensive
gotta be
player of the year
staying.
off the bench. Yeah.
I'd say
There's no way you're in the
gradually.
finals last year if not for Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart
Yeah,
was
that's
so
their heart
good
and
last
soul.
We
year.
also
That's
He was
also
so
probably
good.
would have won too, but with some of the shot selection, which we've talked about before on this channel.
Yeah,
About
I
shot
mean,
selection.
that's the give and
Jalen
take
Brown
with
can't
Marcus.
It is. It's the double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword.
He's critical, man.
Um,
You know one guy on your team that's like super deep sleeper. I don't know if you just got him. I didn't even know he was on
Sam
the
Hauser?
Celtics, but no, Lucas Samanic. You know who that is?
Yes.
Did you just get him? Is he on your G League team?
No, he was on the Spurs last
He
year,
was on
right?
Spurs,
Dude,
yeah.
Lucas Samanic is like kind of good. He's like pretty nice. I highly recommend you guys go watch Lucas Samanic's G League highlights. I mean, he literally was like one of the best players in the G League last season.
Yeah. But
Regardless.
let me go back to my number 4, and I agreed with you, Brad. It's got to be the Cavs. I think for
Oh
me,
God, no.
like I love the Cavs, and I think that again, Pete, we've talked about them even before they made the Donovan Mitchell trade, how much we liked them. Because I felt like they finally had a roster that to me could compete with any of these top 4 teams that are up there. I like the fact that Darius Garland, again, I defended him on the on the infamous stream. I mean, the guy, I said it before. I think he's an athletic Steve Nash. The way that he can really move the ball, the way that he can finish at the hoop. I mean, this guy and the passing ability and the dribbling. I mean, this guy, I can't say enough about Darius Garland as a player. I'm really high on him just from the fact that
Athletic Steve Nash. That's so rude, Bernie. Steve Nash is like one of the 30 best players of all time.
but you know what I mean? Like he can get up there. You know, Steve Nash wasn't the guy that was getting up at the
Yeah.
rim.
Sure. I agree.
And he's again patient on offense, has a great change of speed, has a great change of direction. You clearly can see why he was an all-star last year, and I think that that's gonna really help this team moving forward. Now that you've kind of traded in Sexton for Donovan Mitchell, I think that Donovan Mitchell is a great player as well. Brad, you talked about it. Again, great score of the ball defensively. That's why you got Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. But, you know, I think Donovan Mitchell offensively, that's another guy that you can get the ball to. It really relieves the pressure off Donovan Mitchell to be the number 1 guy on the team. I think not saying that, you know, I'm not sure what you guys think about who the number 1 guy is on the team, but it does relieve that pressure of Donovan Mitchell always having to carry the ball up the court, having to kind of do things. Now we can finally get that one-on-one mismatch that he wants. Now we can start, you know, doesn't have to get harassed by the guy, you know, coming up the court. There's not a guy on him already, so he has to move the ball, and you know, you're already getting into a fist fight with the guy trying to get into your offense and trying to do the stuff that you want to do. JB Bickerstaff doesn't get enough credit for what he did last year, and I know that
No,
this
he
team
does not.
kind of faltered at the end, and I just think that was just due to the injuries more so than
Mhm.
anything else. But you have Caris LeVert, who's a decent player. I think that I prefer him to kind of be a guy that comes off the bench at some point if they can replace him with a good player, with a better player, I should say. But the towers of Mobley and Allen, it's wraps. I think that they're going to be defensively the schemes that Bickerstaff was running last year. You're going to see it again this year. I mean, I'm excited, as you guys can hear in my voice and continue to talk about these guys. This team, the only thing that sucked is that they got rid of Abaji, who I really like from Kansas, and it really made a difference on the Kansas team winning the national championship. And the 3-point shooting, I think that was something that they might miss. But the rest of the roster, Brad, you nailed it. Ricky Rubio coming off the bench for them. Seti Osman, another guy that's coming off the bench for them. Akuro, another guy. I mean, their second unit is just as solid as any second unit out there in the NBA. I'm excited about them. The way I talk about them makes it seem like they should be the number 1 team in the NBA. But I'm excited for this team. I'm excited to see what they do this year. I mean, Pete, I think you're the only one who hasn't really talked about them. I know you probably have them higher on the list, but if you have them at 1, that's crazy. But I do love this
Is it
roster.
though, Bernie?
It's not
Is it?
crazy, but
I have them at number one. I do.
You
I
really?
literally do.
You really? Oh my gosh. Whoa.
Literally
I
do.
have them as a
I
dark
have
horse contender, but one?
I
Oh
have
man.
this is again, I'm gonna reiterate my logic here. This is regular season seeding rankings. Okay. This is regular season seeding rankings.
okay.
And I think with the Cavs, like they man, I maybe this is crazy. I just think they have the most depth in the East. I think they have so much depth. They're so deep, man. They have players. Their second lineup is better than the bottom three teams' starting lineup. I'm sorry, it just is, and to me,
Agreed. Agreed.
that's a huge deal. JB Bickerstaff, like you talked about, Bernie, is the most underrated coach in the league right now, but it's only because he's only coached a couple seasons. Last year was his second season, right?
Let me see.
I think it was his second year as the Cavs coach, I
look it
believe. This will be his
I
third.
think you're right, yeah.
Let me look. You continue talking.
Because he had that
State-
one year where he was coaching KPJ before he got
True.
traded.
He did. Yep, he did. And that was when KPJ had the big like locker room blow up, and they traded him for nothing. So here's my
He's
thing.
been there since 1920. Is it 20?
Been there since 1920.
Sorry, 2019 to 2020.
Okay, yeah, okay. So three years.
He's,
I was
he's
like,
been there
damn.
since, he's in there
Davey
since World
Bickerstaff.
War One.
He's
I
like
found the
Jack
fellow.
Nicholson in The Shining. He's just been there forever. My thing with the Cavs is this, man. I think the Cavs were well on their way to a top 4 seed last season before the injuries, and they got dramatically better. They got dramatically better this offseason. So if the logic stands that they were a top 4 seed without Donovan Mitchell, without a full year of experience under Evan Mobley's belt, I think that it's going to just be another leap. And I'll be serious with you guys. I didn't have them number 1. I actually had them number 2. I have Milwaukee number 1. Spoiler alert. I have them as number 2, but I did have them as my number 1 for a long time. I literally changed it this morning. I had them as number 1 until this morning. And when it comes down to it, I guess I'm just the biggest Mobley fan on planet Earth. Like, I really think Mobley is that guy. And people talk about him like he's like their fourth guy right now. If he's your fourth guy, if Evan Mobley is your fourth guy, you're cooking with gas. You're cooking with gas because he's one of the best defensive players in the league. He is one of the best defensive players in the league. He can guard all 5 positions. He's 7'1". He's an underrated shooter because he hasn't had enough attempts at it. He just needs to keep. He has good form. He's going to get better looks this season. Jared Allen is another one of the best centers in the league, probably just in terms of like the old school down low, cleaning up, doing the dirty work type of guys. Jared Allen is one of those guys too. But the difference that Donovan Mitchell is going to make, he literally solves every big problem that the Cleveland Cavaliers had last season. One, it's they didn't have enough offense in general, but specifically end of games, closing, they had only Darius Garland. That was the crux of the team. If they had any other offensive threats last season in closing minutes, it would have been a dramatically different season for them, because what it came down to was Darius Garland running around like a chicken with his head cut off for the last 5 minutes of games trying to get an open shot. Mm-hmm. And being the smaller guard that he is, it's just that only goes so far. But now you have these 2 dynamic offensive threats. Like Donovan Mitchell is, for whatever you think about him, the thing that makes him so special and worth as much as they got is his scoring. His offensive playmaking for himself is next level. That's why he's been so good since he came into the league. He can make a shot out of nothing, and usually he makes it. That's why he's all NBA. I just think they're going to be offensively in the regular season and defensively just top tier. From the minute the season starts, they're going to be locked in on both sides. And to me personally, I think they're the best rounded team in the NBA. Maybe that's crazy. I just love every position in terms of doing both things, and every player's weaknesses is masked by other guys on the team. Donovan Mitchell's weaknesses are completely covered up by this squad. Same thing with Mobley and Jared Allen's weaknesses. They're covered up by the rest of the team too. Darius Garland, same thing. I just love it, dude. I think regular season record, if I could sports gamble in the state of Washington, I would put money on them as the best record in the regular season. I think they're sleeper to have just an incredible. Am I saying they're guaranteed to win the championship? I think they're too young. I don't think they're ready for it, but it's going to be like a regular season. Just
regular season champs.
Rack up a bunch of wins.
Regular season to remember.
Regular season champs.
They're pretty much the Minnesota of the East. Like we put Minnesota pretty high for most of the same reasons. Mind you, the East is better than the West, so Minnesota wouldn't have gotten as high in the East, obviously. But a lot of the reasons we put Minnesota so high are exactly the way I feel about Cleveland, except Cleveland's better than Minnesota. They're like at almost every position, they're better.
All right. So therefore, I think for consensus, as much as you want to put them at 2, Pete.
It's okay. I'll let it slide.
Consensus, Brad and I were going 4 for them. Now we move on to probably maybe the controversial, because I don't know if maybe knowing Brad and how much he loves this player, he might have them at 1.
Damn, you know me too well. That's crazy.
I was thinking you're going to put them there. But Brad, who do you have as your number 3 team? I'm assuming you have the Celtics.
I actually have the Bucks.
Yeah,
I have the Bucks. I like that they added Joe Ingles. I think that's a really good playoff look. I don't know how much he'll play in the regular season just because of his age.
Probably not.
But
much. He's still coming off that injury too.
Yeah, exactly. So, but and they added my boy, Washington stand-up, Marjan Beauchamp. He's from
Yep.
My wife is from.
Nice in that preseason game yesterday too.
Looked awesome. I love his game. Length, explosion. He can score, defend. Yeah, he's in the perfect fit and system for it too. All you have to do is eat off of what Chris, Giannis, and Drew do. He can hit open shots. He can run the floor. He can play defense. Super easy job and perfect fit for him. But yeah, they have the best player in the world, so Giannis is going to win them a lot of games. Middleton, Drew, they didn't really add anybody this offseason other than Joe, but they didn't need to. They have a great team already. Was he there last year? He was there last year.
Was he there last year? Let me check. I have this.
Yeah.
Oh, he was there last year. I mean,
Serge
do you think he makes a...
He was there. Oh, he's beyond washed too. He might as well be dust in the wind with Blake Griffin.
Whoa. Okay, that's my Congolese brother, but yeah, no, he's great. His knees are pretty cooked. I love Serge, but I think he's a playoff,
makes a play there.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's hurt, or you play him, or you get spot minutes from him. He can still defend the rim and maybe hit an open 3. But yeah, regular season he won't play much.
Does he does he do that Bobby Portis role that he had when they won their championship? That type of role?
No. Bobby Portis. I'm sorry. Bobby Portis is better right now than Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka couldn't play a minute last season in the playoffs.
And they just
couldn't get
his knees are pretty cooked. I've seen it. He looked bad even in the G League, because he came back from that injury and he was just struggling to get reps and find a rhythm. But the shot blocking will never go away.
How old is Serge Ibaka? 33?
No,
and he does not physically look like a 33-year-old to me. I feel like he's
33. Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I don't know about that. Maybe it's true. His body. I don't know. To me, I don't think he's that far off. I look at him and I see the same age as Horford, 36, 37.
36. Yeah.
That makes sense. He plays like a 37-year-old.
The way he was moving is yeah.
All right. Pete, who do you have at number 3 then? Your list is very interesting. Who got 3?
This pained me because I think they're gonna have I think Joel is the MVP this season. I think 76ers are number 3.
Okay.
I like the 76ers a lot more than I think a lot of people do this season. Maybe I'm buying into these James Harden workout pictures more than I should.
Harden slim.
I think James Harden a little healthier, actually not wanting to quit on a team within the first 2 months. I think that's something to be said, for James Harden. Whether or not you like it, I can't say I'm a fan of it, but none of the last couple of years were really representative of James Harden. Even when he was playing consistently, he was never setting himself up for success with his off-season work. He really never was, because the intention was clearly so not in line with staying with the team that I don't think he was prepared as much as he should have been. I think a full off-season with this team, he's definitely looking a lot healthier. The thing I think that is understated about the 76ers is don't think he's their second best player. Like I think Tyrese Maxey, another year of him, he's gonna get even better. He's so good. Tyrese Maxey is is different. Like he is really like a special offensive player in the league, and he's not that bad on defense either. He's just so athletic he can get in the way of people. Not necessarily like he's like a high end defender, but I like the 76ers a lot, man. I like what they did this offseason. I like some of their the contract they gave Harden was nice. It showed a lot of buy-in from him, but also like there's communication happening with the team that probably wasn't happening at the last few stops for old Harden. But I think if Embiid wants his MVP, I think this is the year. I mean, Jokic cannot get it 3 years in a row. It's almost impossible to get the MVP 3 years in a row, and especially as much backlash as there was to Jokic winning last season, they won't give it to him again. This is Embiid's season, man. If he can stay healthy, which I know is the biggest question mark for him as a player. I mean, he is. I don't think he's like leaps and bounds
Mhm.
behind Giannis as the best player in the world. I really don't. Embiid is so unbelievably good nights when he's fully healthy. Like he is an absolute force of nature offensively. He's unstoppable, man. Like the step back threes he can take as a 7'2" player is he set he's I guess he's 7 foot is what he's listed as, but he's huge, man. He's so giant and fluid with his motion and just the shots he can take. I
Mhm.
like the squad a lot, and again another team that has enough pieces to go make a move if it's not looking great. They have good contracts that are movable. I like the Montrez signing for them a lot. PJ Tucker, I still whatever you
Mhm.
think about 39-year-old PJ Tucker, he's just going to play hard nosed defense and
The
stand in the corner
tampering,
on offense.
the
That's
tampering
fine.
that they did for him.
Yeah, I mean, PJ Tucker is almost the perfect response. Like if PJ Tucker is still kind of the guy he was in Miami and in Milwaukee the season before, he's kind of the perfect answer to not having faith in Matisse Thybulle. Like he's the same type of hard-nosed defender where he can bother people and just be annoying for the whole game, but he's at least a consistent enough shooter where it's not a zero like Thybulle is. So I like Thibault though. It's just like bench players. They have such a deep bench too. House I like.
Milton,
I think Tobias
some
Harris. Yeah,
Milton and
I
Elton.
thought, hey, that's one of those. I almost forgot about it. That's one of those the signings of the offseason as far as fit with the team and what they got or what they had to give up to get Melton. I think he's so perfect for what the Sixers needed, his defense and shooting. I love that
Hmm.
signing. I really like them. I think
Yeah.
Maxey another leap this year. Harden a better season, and Joel Embiid just continues to be an absolute wrecking ball on offense and defense.
Here's the one guy you forgot to mention, and
Let's
it's
hear it.
and
Furkan Korkmaz.
you're right. It's Korkmaz. No, it to me. It's Tobias Harris. I like this team. I have them at my number three. I think there are two concerns for me when it comes to this team. I think personally, and again, I know we're talking just like seeding wise, but this team doesn't care about the regular season. I think Brad, you can agree with that. This team doesn't care about the regular season. It's all about where they finish at the end of it, which is hopefully what they want is the NBA finals. Right? To
I
finally
actually think. Oh, go ahead. My bad, Bernie.
No,
Go
no, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. What are you gonna say? Do you think they're NBA
I was
finals?
I was gonna say I actually think this is the year they care about the regular season. I think
I,
this is
I
the year
agree with
where
you.
they want to win every game and show just how talented they are, and they have the talent to do it.
Yeah.
That's why I think they added people like PJ Tucker and Daniel House who are hard nosed and willing to play defense and hold people accountable to we got to win these games. They
Mhm.
want to show just how talented they are.
Yeah. I mean, and when you add those guys to me, it feels like it's more of a playoff run. And you want to make a deep playoff run with the roster that you have. Tobias Harris, for whatever reason, has just not worked out in the playoffs. It seems to me that he's kind of one of those guys that when the Clippers traded him over to the 76ers, it was a great pickup. Everyone loved it. But the concern for me is just in the playoffs. I just don't know if he's going to stay consistent as he would be in the regular season where, he's averaging at least 17 a game. The other thing, and it's the big elephant in the room, is the injuries of Joel Embiid. And it continues to be a problem every year with Joel. I love Joel. I honestly thought he should have been the MVP last season, but that's just me. Um,
Agreed.
his problem has always been, can he stay healthy? And I know, and the problem is every time at the end of the season or even in the middle of the season, he's always hurt. And again, it's not his fault. I'm not blaming him, but it always happens at that point. It kind of reminds me of Chris Paul in his Clipper days, where there was always just some sort of injury that kept him from playing in the playoffs and even like maybe in the later part of the regular season. And you're going to need him to be at his 100% best in order to move on. It seems like the last 3 to 4 years now has been consistent injuries from Joel Embiid. And it sucks because, again, I'm a huge Joel Embiid guy. I think that he's a great player. I want to see him succeed just for the fact that he can kind of prove the haters wrong with the process and things like that. But the injuries concern me a lot. And it's the reason why I have them at number 3, because even when he's out, this roster isn't necessarily that bad because they have James Harden. Again, is he going to be the scorer that he was in Houston? Probably not. But that's the reason why you have Tyrese Maxey, who's probably going to take that next step for you. And you have Matisse Thybulle, great defensive player. And, I think that he's really underrated in terms of as a player. I think that he's going to do tremendous things. But I think this team is really good, though. I'm not going to deny that they're not a top 3 team, but the injuries just concern me with this squad.
Well, Bernie, you know how I feel about the Sixers and how I feel about MVP. I agree with Pete. I think this is his year for MVP. I really hate how they did him on the All NBA team last year.
Yeah.
I think that's why they need to make it positionless because
just
him and
change
Jokic
that rule, man. That's so stupid.
Yeah,
they were the two best
how do you
players in
get
basketball
second
last
MVP?
season.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and then that like has implications on his legacy. Like, oh, he's never had a first team All NBA. Like, it's ridiculous. He should have been first team.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, he's unstoppable. You cannot stop that man. And I think if he really, the only concern is his health. But I believe, last year he did a lot better with playing games. Aside from like some freakish accidents. Like I think it was last year when he fell back and then missed a bunch of games after that hit from LeBron. But aside from health, he's unstoppable.
Yeah.
If they can mesh as a group, I think having another year together with Harden and Tyrese and Tobias even will get them to have more continuity and win more games. I think DeAnthony Melton is the perfect addition. Same with Daniel House. They both bring shooting and defense. PJ Tucker, I'm interested to see how Doc Rivers does the starting lineup. Is Matisse still going to start, or is PJ Tucker going to slot in at that small forward position?
I would be surprised if it's not PJ Tucker. The way they went out and got him and how much they paid him, I feel like it has to be him.
But my thing with that is PJ is like, do you want to save him for the playoffs? Yeah. Exactly. Like, because Matisse is going to be the one chasing those like guards off screens, guarding some of the not big wings, but some of the wings like Jaylen Brown. You don't want PJ Tucker guarding Jaylen Brown in a regular season game, really. So like, it'll be interesting to see how Doc Rivers figures that out. But
will he figure that out? That's the other question too.
That's another thing. I was going to say
there you go.
There's a lot of flack. But I really think he's become underrated now. Like he catches a lot of flack.
Okay. I thought you were going a different direction with this, Brad.
Well, I mean, I agree. He has underperformed a lot, especially with the Clippers in the bubble and how Luka dismantled them. That was, and they won that, but then how the Nuggets dismantled them. It's rough. His tenure has been rough. He has a bad history of dropping leads. I know he has the most 3-1 losses in NBA history in the playoffs, but I think with the talent he has on this team, they could win a bunch of regular season games. I don't think they're a contender at all. Tobias Harris is not to be trusted in the playoffs. Matisse Thybulle, not to be trusted. Tyrese is too young. James Harden, not to be trusted in the playoffs at all. At all. But he's a huge regular season player. That's why I think him getting into shape and saying, I'm going to be good this season, mostly for the bag, is actually going to win them a bunch of games.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll be a good.
Yeah, because I mean, if Harden's if he slides into that role that he was playing in the beginning of his Brooklyn tenure, where he's really just like he's playing point guard, right? He's not Houston Harden, but he's not fat Harden either. That it's like that fine balance of him just being the playmaker and just creator, like you need that extra medium Harden. Extra medium
schmedium.
Harden is what we need.
Schmedium.
Schmedium.
Oh my God.
This is there's two things with this team that makes me have them at 3. I have to keep them at 3 because Doc Rivers is number 1. Doc Rivers, I know you just talked about him. It's just when it comes to those big minutes, man, there is not many coaches that crumble more than Doc does consistently. Like he really is to blame for a lot of the biggest crumbles in playoffs in the last 10 years in playoff history.
You think so? Like I think
some of them are bad.
A combination of like what was he supposed to do with the Ben Simmons thing? He couldn't not play him. Like I think that was
not, but I don't think when you're the head coach calling, and I know that was after the playoffs were over, they had been eliminated, but like I refuse to believe that him calling Ben Simmons out, and I mean Joel did it too, but I think it's much more important that the head coach by name calls out one of your best players after a loss. That could not have been the first time that I'm not trying to get on the Ben Simmons defense case, but that couldn't have been the first time that something like that happened. It couldn't have been. I'm just saying,
he didn't even really. I think Ben is just really mentally fragile because he didn't even call him out and say we lost that game to Ben. All he said was somebody asked the question, "Do you think Ben can be?" It was a loaded question, and I can't believe he didn't answer it more succinctly or better. But
subtly in general,
a fence sitter, someone that sits in the middle of it, just like.
But I mean, emotions are high after you blow that game.
Sure,
I completely understand. And he didn't. He shouldn't have said that, but he said, I don't think so. Or he said, I don't know. And it's not. You probably shouldn't say that, but that's not throwing him under the bus. Technically,
I don't know. I think he threw him under the bus, and I would argue that his coaching, leaving Ben in situations that were never going to work for Ben Simmons, is probably the reason it went so poorly. I'm not taking all the blame away from Ben. Ben screwed up in a big way. We don't need to rehash all the Ben Simmons stuff. He needs to be better. He needs to shoot. No, we don't. We definitely don't. It's one of those things where, I mean, how can you keep putting him in the position where he is going to, bomb these free throws and do that? Coach better. Put your guys in a better situation. They had a deep roster that year. They were solid. I'm not a Doc Rivers person. I really think he gets so much credit from that Celtics championship, and their team was stacked to the gills the year they won. They really were. Man, I don't know. Doc is not that guy, and I think, like Bernie said, Tobias Harris is always
fraudulent?
a huge question mark. He's free. I like Tobias Harris. It's just he can't be your third guy. He can't be your fourth guy either.
Yeah.
Maybe if he's your fifth best player, you're talking something different at different points in his career. But right now, not so much. And I'm just going to throw this out there as just because we talked about Chicago and how not great we think their season is going to go. I would love to see if they could make a run and go get DeRozan from Chicago. I think he solves so many of their issues, any of the little issues that Philly has. I don't think they could get him, but that would be so interesting as far as getting just a lethal shooter, closing shooter to go alongside Embiid. That would be so nice for them.
What if they got rid of Korkmaz? Can they do it?
Oh my God!
Yeah, Korkmaz straight up for DeRozan.
Korkmaz's even going to play this year.
No, he played himself out of the rotation.
I thought Doc loved his foreign players. Doc loves his
2 years.
Players.
He does. He tried with Korkmaz for a long time. It just.
Same thing with Zubac. Now you got Korkmaz. Just
Zubac is actually pretty good.
He is. Yeah,
Korkmaz is pretty suspect.
If you put Zubac on the Brooklyn Nets, I'd put them way higher than where I have them right now.
Oh.
I like some of Philly's bench big guys too. I like Paul Reed and I like Charles Bassey too. I like those guys.
I love Charles Bassey.
He needs more minutes, man. Charles
Bassey needs more minutes.
Yeah,
I think Paul Reed needs more minutes.
Watching him at Western Kentucky, man, it was kind of interesting because I think it was a preseason game, and I just or one of those tournaments, the early tournament games that they play. I saw him play, and I was like, "Damn, who is this guy?" And he kind of was a guy that I looked on my radar of okay, maybe he can be something in the NBA, but he just needs an opportunity.
He's a beast, man. I saw there was a game where Embiid was out last year, and they played the Nuggets. They were beating the Nuggets because this man had Jokic in hell. The Sixers' second unit was smacking their first unit because Jokic couldn't do anything with Bassey. I love Bassey.
They could shoot, but Bassey and like I said, Paul Reed. Paul Reed was scoring. He was the G League MVP 2 seasons ago. I think he was 24 points a game in the G League. Get those guys some minutes, man. They're good. They really need to just cut back. I know,
That's
Bernie.
Doc's
I
problem.
know you like. I know you like Matisse and players like that. It's just when it comes down to it, I mean, Matisse is not a playoff guy right now. Like he's too limited. He's too limited. So I think you go get something for those guys that is more usable. You know, cut down. They're so deep with players that could get minutes on other teams that they really just need to cut some of it down and add a little bit more like high quality to the team. You know, that high
Mm-hmm.
mid range, like just improve if they could improve their small forward spot. I would feel drastically different about this team. I would consider moving them above Cleveland just because of their experience. But I just don't think their starting roster is
Yeah.
Thibault and Tobias Harris is your starting 3 and 4. I don't think that's good enough to beat Cleveland, like
Mm-hmm.
or Cleveland or even Boston. I just think regular season they're still going to have a great regular
Yeah.
season because of a better year from Harden. And you know, too, one thing they went into last season with that Ben Simmons situation lingering over the whole team. And that can't go understated how much of a distraction that was. And they didn't have anything to replace him either.
That's true.
So their season, like the first half of their season was kind of like crippled a little bit at the jump just because of the Ben Simmons situation.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Last thing on him, Tobias could be trade bait because he's in the last or
Year.
second to last year of his
Yeah.
contract.
If it goes
Yeah.
terrible for them, yeah, maybe. Maybe.
I'd like to see them package him and Thibault and yeah, get a better player at that position.
Dude, they could. I mean, the
Hmm.
the the thing with Tobias is his contract is bad, but
Horrendous.
it's not that bad with 1 year after it. Like
Yeah.
it's okay enough where I mean, he's going to give you 20 on a bad team. He probably could. It's just you'd be going to a bad team is probably the
Mm-hmm.
only people that would consider it really as just
Maybe
contract filler in a trade.
maybe he goes to the Hornets.
I mean, maybe, dude. Maybe. I don't know who they
Or the
would get in
Wizards.
return. I wouldn't
Get
want
Bradley
anybody.
Beal.
Man, the Wizards have like 20 different guys that are Tobias Harris light. It's like you're
Oh
adding
my
another, you're
God.
adding another one to him. You know what I mean? Like,
I wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I mean, not to go on like a Wizards rant because we've already done it, but man, that they just continue to get guys that are like similar. It's frustrating.
Oh, dude, I would like they should go like grab Kispert, just get some more shooting from that. Something, dude. I don't know. They need to they could make a couple moves. Bernie, we didn't talk about this with the Celtics. What did you think about that report that came out? I know this is a little off topic, but did you see that the Celtics are okay if other teams want to pursue Ime for this season? Did you see that out there?
I didn't see that out there necessarily, but
There's teams that have been asking. There's people who are actually interested in just like either trading for his rights or whatever it is, getting Ime. There's potential. There's a few suitors that have called the Celtics for Ime, and I'm just saying, Philly. I mean, think about it, Philly.
Please.
Think about it.
Please. One thing that Ime does that Doc doesn't is Ime gives chances to young players. Like he was
Does
playing Peyton Pritchard in the finals. I saw
way better
Aaron Nesmith
rotations.
out there. Yeah, way better rotations. Like
Aaron Nesmith.
Doc won't play Bassie. He's just gonna play Trez, which I don't like.
Yeah,
You guys might be right about Doc, honestly. Actually, I take it back. He's got it. He's terrible. He's not a good coach.
I think of the rotations I see Doc throw out in playoffs with any
Horrendous.
team he's coached with. I mean, it's just always
He's on
so
the
bad
level
when
of
it comes down to it.
Budenholzer and Steve Nash.
Steve Nash.
He's better than Steve Nash. He's better than
Well,
Steve
no,
Nash.
I'm
Let's
just
be
talking about the
fair.
rotations.
Very Steve
Yeah.
Nash for sure.
It's similar, yeah.
Yeah.
But at least we'll change things like once he gets his head beat in for 4 games
Yeah,
straight. He'll at least
exactly.
make one change.
Yeah.
So I guess the final two. I mean, Pete, you had Cleveland at
Yeah,
2.
Cleveland too.
Brad, who do you have at 2?
The Boston Celtics.
Yep.
And yeah, I talked about them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Celtics. I mean, we kind of already talked about them for. I think again they have four solid guys. I know the coaching situation isn't great in terms of the whole thing that went down. Again, I'm still waiting for more information on it. Depends on if they even will release the information. But the way that ESPN and at the Athletic, I've kind of hoarded out that information is a little disappointing to me because I think that we need to start having credible reporting instead of just throwing out bits and pieces.
No, but Bernie, they want to be fast. They want to be the fastest, Bernie.
They
Don't
want all the
forget.
power.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. Garbage
I
reporting.
mean, it's just kind of like, with Shams and Woj, it disappointed me more so from those two guys because I thought they were better than that. But,
you did?
I thought at least Shams was. Woj
I
already
know,
know who
man.
he is. I mean, I mean, look at Woj, man. He looks like a snake in the grass, to be honest.
Shams is second generation Woj. He's the same guy. They do the same thing. They
Yeah.
have the same ethics of reporting stuff. Yeah, they're both trash.
Yeah, but I mean, Woj is a little bit more trash because I think when I look at him, he's kind of a guy that just like, again, he's like I said, he's a snake in the grass. He slips and slides in there, and it's just like he kind of reminds me of Randall from Recess, just like kind of just in there trying to get information, and then
Wow, that's a throwback. What a reference.
Let me ask you a real question. I feel like people make fun of Adam Schefter in the NFL all the time, right? Why does nobody make fun of Woj? I mean, he's the same dude. Woj and Schefter are the same guy. They might as well be the same guy. They're just in the ears of these specific GMs, these GMs that just, tell them these things that they want to hear and give them these little scoops so they,
the
report
whisper.
in one direction. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Careless
Woj needs.
whisper.
Honestly, this is my message to everybody: make fun of Woj more. I'll be that guy. Just give Woj more shit. He needs it, man.
Yeah, but going back to the Celtics, I do agree with you, Brad. I think number 2. I was gonna have a number 1 just to be a homer, but realistically, I think the coaching thing does affect them. But I think what it can do also is unite those guys. I know I've seen some of your tweets, Brad, talking about Jason Tatum, the Lakers. Seems like you want everybody on that team.
Hey.
But
Wait,
I think,
after you go, I have a point about him, but go ahead. Yeah.
I think
we're
that
trading Anthony Davis and we're trading what's his name, Darvin Ham for Ime and Jason Tatum. Let's go.
Yes.
Swap.
Yes.
But I think for me, I think the Celtics they'll be fine. I think Missoula, he was kind of the second hand man. I think he was honestly, he was kind of the second hand guy. I mean, he's gotta be some.
The guy that the Jazz hired was the guy that
Will Hardy.
they went to. Will Hardy was number 2. If Will Hardy was still there, guarantee you 100,000% he was their interim coach. I guarantee you if Will Hardy was there, they would have fired Ime and kept Will Hardy as their coach.
But I think Missoula could do it, man. I think Missoula is a young coach that, again, I understand the young coaches. It's very hit or miss because obviously they're about the same age as these players, or not the same age, but just like maybe 5 or 6 years older than these players. But I do like the fact that they have a guy in Missoula who can. I think he can coach, man. I mean I know that we haven't really seen him coach, like head coach, very much. I think he's coached maybe at a couple places. I can't remember where he's coached at as a head coach, but I know he's done it. He's been around the block. I think that he deserves that chance. And I think they're going to rally around him. And I think they're going to do really well. I think the question will be, will they start slow like they did last year, or will they be kind of up to their regular pace like they were towards the end of the season? That's going to be the biggest question mark for me. And I think you guys are right with Marcus Smart, your defensive player of the year starting. You have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They're going to have to wait on Robert Williams, which kind of sucks. So we'll see what happens there. But again, I'm excited for this team. Again, are they going to be a team that explodes in the regular season? Maybe not, but I do think that they're going to be solid enough to be the second seed in this league. Or sorry, the second seed in the East.
Oh.
I put them at 4, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to think is extra harsh. I know you guys did. I just really worry about, like, there's not a long history of this messy of a situation just turning out okay. That's really my logic behind it. Like, it's the track record of things being as messy as this situation has been for them is very, very poor. And I know that this situation is so unique that it's hard to even compare it, but I don't know, man. I think it's interesting because did you see, Bernie, too, that they were trying to get that Clippers assistant coach, Laranga? Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And he declined. He didn't even want to bother. He didn't want to get in the mess, which, whatever that is, who knows? Maybe he's just super happy in LA with the Clippers. That could be as simple as it is, but I don't know, man. It's a mess. It's a
I
mess.
mean, that's why I'm tweeting my Tatum to the Lakers takes because they didn't even tell him about the Ime situation. He found out on Twitter,
No,
which is
they
nuts.
all did.
That's
None of
that
them knew, did they?
they still don't know what happened
Yeah.
either. Like that's insane. I think Brad Stevens and the owner must be the only people that know actually, which is nuts. I feel like you owe it to the players to tell them. I know there's some legal stuff behind it, but
Yeah.
the bare minimum finding it out on Twitter is like really
Yeah.
wrong. It's insane.
Did they get Vogel as a bench coach?
No, actually, he was
It's
spotted
just
at the
rumor.
Mavericks practice.
Oh God.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would
That's
actually like
somebody they
that.
could really use as a bench coach.
Yeah,
That would be important for
exactly.
them.
Yeah,
Here's one more question for you, Bernie, about the Celtics. If this rumor, because you should look at it. I mean, it's pretty interesting that because the Celtics already came out and said that if another team really wants to hire him and do something to get him, they'd allow it possibly. He did say, I think that actually is out there. Would your opinion change on this team? Let's say if Ime gets hired by, let's say it's the 76ers, right? They trade some rights to get him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it truly is Joe Mazzulla is the coach, interim or not. They don't have Ime on the back burner for next season. Would your opinion change for them, or would it be the same?
If he left the team, I mean, the thing that I think, and Brad kind of pointed it to me, it's like I need to find out what really happened because to me, again, like I understand there's legality stuff and things like that, but I think without you can say it without saying the names. I mean, we've done this before in the history of
Yeah,
sports. It's just so weird that it's so in house because again, with the way that these GMs and owners like to spread their information and the way that they like to plant the seeds out there, you can't tell me that there's no reason why we shouldn't know what's going on. You know, we talked. I know the latest thing that came out was the crude language, whatever that
Crude
means. I
remark.
don't know
Yeah,
what that means.
talking like
Um,
Quagmire.
I know. Maybe he is Quagmire. I don't know.
that
Oh my
VP
gosh.
thing, that
Maybe
he
he's
slept with the VP's wife thing is not going away. That's like everywhere still.
maybe
I still
maybe
see that.
maybe he just said
Yeah,
the
I actually
word
saw that
giggity.
yesterday.
He just said giggity, and it's just like I don't know. Again, just going back to that thing, I'm curious to see what the Celtics will do in that sense. Like, I hope at the end of the day that the Celtics front office makes the right decision on whatever it is for the Ma Udoka situation. Again, I will be the first one to go off on them if it's turned out to be just like basically a romantic relationship that just went wrong at the end. Because at the end of the day, I get it from a standpoint of okay, he's your superior, but if it's really the VP's wife, again, not we don't really know the whole thing, but if it's that situation, it's not really a subordinate kind of like power dynamic. And if that's the case for me, I just can't get down with it. And so um I need to hear more information from this stuff. So I am waiting to hear more from it because it'll definitely shift my opinion one way or the other. But I need to know what happened because I can't really say one way or the other. To be honest with you, Pete.
Yeah, until all the facts come
It's
out.
tough for sure, for sure. It's more, I guess my the only reason I ask it is like how it would affect the team's mentality of like what it I don't know. I just think he changed them in a certain way that the credibility of him being such a hard-nosed coach and being hard on them, and then he leaves, and then how are they supposed to feel, about it? Like
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like they had a long track record of being that hard-nosed defensive, literally one of the best defensive teams in NBA history. I mean, for a stretch there, right?
Yeah.
Statistically.
Yeah,
And they had a season of that with him as their coach. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think you have to question. I mean, it's the same roster basically that it was 2 seasons ago when they were
Mm-hmm.
insanely disappointing. So what's the dynamic that's changed? It's their coaching. I just have to defend because I do think they have probably the most talented overall roster in the East. It's
Yeah.
just yeah, the mentality of it is important for me.
Yeah. And I
Bernie, I
think
take it we have the same number one, right?
I mean it's Milwaukee.
It's
It's
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, and that's really it. I mean,
Milwaukee.
really a healthy Milwaukee team, I think, is going to be a finals contender every year.
Yeah.
Um, and I think without Middleton, without Drew really being healthy on that team last year, again, I love Giannis. I think the Giannis slander from Agent Zero is the
Ridiculous,
most
insane.
ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, he should have his ability to speak like on a mass level, basketball wise, like revoked permanently for that.
For
That's just
real.
such an awful take. It's just not even there's no logic behind it.
Honestly, it sounds like hate.
I honestly,
He is a hater.
Bernie and I deliberated. I think there's some kind of European, anti-European racism sentiment to it almost. Like he's not watching what Giannis is as a basketball player, if that's how he feels
Exactly.
about
Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. He's like used to like, the AAU kids who dribble and
it. Yeah.
handles this like
Hmm.
quote unquote skill, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty nasty.
Yeah. I mean, we're entering a different generation now. Kids from overseas are coming to the NBA and just even colleges and high schools even, and they're coming more skilled than ever. And I think that
Really.
because the level playing field is such there now for these squads over, we talk about teams like, I'm hoping that I don't know if Embiid is playing for Cameroon or if he playing for Cameroon or is he playing for
Same for France.
France. Of course he would.
Is he? Am I
Yeah.
here still?
He would. But
He just got US citizenship, so I don't know if he's eligible, but if somehow could be eligible since he just got US citizenship.
yeah, I mean, to me, I look at it and it's just like, again, overseas players are becoming so freaking good right now that I think it's starting to scare some of the guys over here in the States because of how, and I talked about this with France specifically during the Olympics. I think that they're here for it. They're definitely a lot better. They're definitely like in terms of the way that they play a little bit more together. I mean, we even saw it during like the lead up to the final game is that not Celtics on my mind, but the
Mhm.
US was struggling. Like they weren't really playing together as a team. Whereas France, it seems like they've been, even though, they meet up every, couple months, it seems like they're always on the same track with one another. And so, again, not to go on a tangent about something other than the power rankings, but um, I think with that being said, Giannis, obviously the best player in the NBA, best player in the world right now. Until he has a significant drop off, this team will always be number one or number two in the East.
Probably. I see.
I think they might
Let me
coast a
give a couple
little, but
pushbacks
which is
on
why I
the
put them
Bucks.
third.
Yeah, I worry about their age in terms of the depth of the team. Like a lot of their guys that are going to get minutes for this team are kind of old. Like they're not necessarily in their prime or even like a year removed from their prime. Like here, let me just name a couple of them. George Hill has been I mean, George Hill is pretty old at this point.
George
Let's
Hill is
just leave
George
it at
Hill.
that. Wesley Matthews is pretty old at this point. You have Brooke Lopez, Serge Ibaka. You have Joe Ingles. I mean, those guys are going to make up a serious chunk of the minutes on this team, and none of those guys are in their best days right now. So I think there is some questions of depth with this team, but I like I love the Beauchamp sign. We talked about that earlier. I think he's going to get serious minutes for them. He's huge for a guard type of player, like the style of play he has. He's really big. Like
Mhm.
it's so weird to see him like go up and down the court. Like he looks like a power
Mhm.
forward almost, but he clearly just doesn't move like that. I think he's going to be great next to Giannis. The reason I put the Cavaliers ahead of them first, and I had them that way, is literally as simple as that. It's the depth and the age, and I really worry about this team seeding if Giannis misses any time. Like they're not in the same situation as even like Boston has a better depth situation, I would consider, for most of the positions on their team. Philly is probably a little bit better depth wise too, and Cleveland, I would say, definitely is better depth wise. So that's a question mark, man. I think if we saw what happened to them when they lost Middleton, I mean that made a huge difference for the team in the playoffs, and it was the reason they didn't make it farther. And Giannis still got them pretty close, but they really need their top three guys there.
Mhm.
They really need them. There's not any significant time any of those top three guys can miss that will go okay. for Milwaukee, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty
Yeah, I
rough.
agree. They need Giannis to play. And even without Brook Lopez, like, they're serviceable, but their defense struggles a lot, like their rim protection, because that's their whole scheme is to take away shots at the paint. So without their best rim protector,
And
they
they're shooting
struggle.
too. Yeah. They
And
need Brook to be
yeah,
out there for shooting as well.
exactly. Yeah.
Because the
So
one
it's
guy I
that.
really worry about this team is Drew. I worry about Drew not because of his play. Like he's been so incredibly good the last few seasons, especially since he got to Milwaukee. He's been so good.
yeah.
He just has so many miles on him the last few years between
Mhm.
going to the finals and just late playoff runs, but also he was the best player on the Olympic team or the national team a couple years ago. Well, the right after they won the finals and he
Yeah.
went there,
Yep.
he was
Middleton.
he was
Yeah.
insanely good for them. So was Middleton too. But I think they have to be the number one for me just because they have Giannis. It's like Bernie said. As long as they have Giannis, he is a different breed of human being than all of us. Like physically, he's just on a completely different stratosphere physically. So I until I see any drop off from him, yeah, I agree, Bernie. They have to be 1, 2, 3, somewhere in the top three at the very least.
Agreed.
All right. So we're gonna have we're going Cavaliers at 4, Philly at 3, Celtics at 2, Bucks at 1. Does that sound fair?
I like it.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
fair.
maybe
I'll,
move
I'll concede.
Philly. Mm,
Philly, you want Philly down, Philly up?
I concede. I concede. I was gonna say move Philly ahead of the Celtics,
I
but
was gonna say the
Doc
same
Rivers.
thing, Brad. I was gonna say the
Really?
same thing.
Okay. I say do it. I say do it, Bernie.
So what? 76ers ahead of the Celtics. So
I'd
3.
put them at
Yep.
2, man. I really
Yeah.
would.
All right.
Because one way or the other, whatever we say about Doc is not invalidated by putting them up. Like it's Doc in the
They're still
playoffs is
really
the issue.
talented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Doc.
Yeah.
when Doc Rivers and Tobias Harris are disappointing you, you're gonna look back at this stream.
Yeah, just wait until we see James Harden sweating bullets his first game. He's like dying 5 minutes in. He's out of shape.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I'll regret it the second I see that. But until then, I think they're gonna have a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is it, everybody. That is going to do it for the stream. Again, what do you guys think of our top 15 in the Eastern Conference? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who's too high? Who's too low? Let us know in the comment section down below as we continue to do a little bit of preseason stuff before the season actually gets going. I know that there's a game that's going to be played in Seattle on Monday. Rumor has it that the Sonics might be announced that day. So just a heads up if you're looking for that.
No way.
But that's just
Where's that rumor?
I
won't
name my sources.
Send it to us. Yeah, send it to us, Bernie. I gotta see that.
But with that being said, thank you, Pete. Thank you, Brad, for joining us here on the Charge. I know that Sunday is not the best day just because of NFL football. I know we all like our football and stuff like that. So, and we have preseason on as well for basketball. So I do apologize for that. But we'll be hopefully back. Maybe, actually, I got to think about next week because I'm on a retreat. So I'll think about that one again. But, guys, thank you once again for joining us here. Appreciate your guys' insight.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here always.
Thank you, Bernie. Also, I just need to point out, this is so off topic. I can't believe the Seahawks score right now. It's 48-45.
Bro, I just looked at that. I just looked at that.
What?
It's 48 to 45 right now.
TJ Hawkinson is 180 yards receiving. Oh my God. All right. That's crazy. Football, totally off topic. Last question for you guys. If you had to pick, who's your team in the East that's coming out? We were doing rankings of seeding, basically. So who do we actually think is winning the East this year? Final choice. You have one pick.
I'll go first. That's tough. It's really between the Bucks and Celtics, but I'm gonna say the Celtics because I like their depth more.
Yeah. They could move more if any injuries happen. Dude, honestly, gosh, man, I want to pick Philly so bad, but Doc is there, so I have to pick Milwaukee. I think they're gonna make it back.
I got the Celtics. I think they're young, like Pete said. He was making a big deal about the age. He's making the big deal about the age. So I'm going with the Celtics there.
Screw it. Honestly, Knicks are making it. There you go, Bernie. Just for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me keep your energy.
Keep the energy. Knicks making the finals. Here we go. But with that being said, thank you guys once again for joining here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions, which of course we'll emphasize basketball opinions as we just did today with our Eastern Conference power rankings. Let us know how we did. Whose side are you on? Are you on Team Brad, Team Pete, or Team Bernie? Let us know who got the most predictions right, in your opinion, in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Pete. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Charge. Peace out, everybody.
Bring back our Sonics.
Bring them back.
Cavaliers to the finals.
Peace.